I knew the day was going to be a dumpster fire when I walked into the server room and found a half-empty can of violently orange energy drink sitting on top of the primary rack. It was sweating condensation onto a $10,000 piece of hardware like a nervous teenager at prom. This is my kingdom. It's 65 degrees, smells like ozone and expensive plastic, and usually, it's the only place in this godforsaken building where logic actually applies. But lately, logic has been packing its bags. I picked up the can with two fingers like it was a used diaper and tossed it into the recycling bin. I knew exactly who left it there. Braden, our new CTO. I put that in quotes because the only thing Braden knows about technology is that it looks cool in his Instagram stories. He's the CEO's son, 26-year-old frat paddle with a degree in business communications and a haircut that costs more than my car. He looks like he was 3D printed out of mayonnaise and nepotism. Listen, before I get into how I dismantled this kid's ego like a faulty hard drive, do us a favor. Hit subscribe and smash the like. It's the only dopamine hit I get these days besides watching a deployment go green. It helps the team, and honestly, it's cheaper than therapy. Thanks. Anyway, back to the impending train wreck. We're a SAW S company in Missouri. We make boring, reliable software for boring, reliable industries. I'm the backend reliability specialist. That's corporate speak for the janitor of the internet. When the code poops the bed, I'm the one changing the sheets. I've spent 3 years building our uptime guarantee. I wrote the disaster protocols. I wired the failovers. I know the heartbeat of this system better than I know my own blood pressure, which, thanks to Braden, is hovering somewhere between stroke and explosion. Today was the big day. We were demoing a new feature to a potential investor worth $100 million. This investor, let's call him Mr. Big, wasn't some tech bro idiot. He was old money, serious money. The kind of guy who checks the tires before he buys the car. And Braden was leading the demo. I was sitting at my desk, burying my face in a mug of coffee that tasted like battery acid and despair, when Nate rolled his chair over. Nate is my work husband. He's a nervous front-end dev who looks like a startled deer that learned to code. Marcy, Nate whispered, looking around like he was selling contraband plutonium. Have you seen the demo environment setup? No, I said, not looking up from my logs. And I don't want to. Watching Braden configure a server is like watching a monkey try to perform open-heart surgery with a spoon. It's messy and everyone dies. He changed the routing, Nate said, his voice dropping an octave. He said the latency on the sandbox was killing the vibe. He wants it snappy. My head snapped up. He did what? He bypassed the load balancer, Nate squeaked. I felt a cold shiver go down my spine. The kind you get when you realize you locked your keys in the car with the engine running. Bypassing the load balancer on a live demo with real data? That's not just stupid, that's suicidal. It's like taking the brakes off a Ferrari because they weigh too much. I stood up, my knees popping like bubble wrap. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to strangle him with an Ethernet cable. Marcy, stop, Nate hissed, grabbing my arm. You can't. The CEO is in there with him. You're doing a dry run. If you go in there and start speaking nerd, they'll just say you're being negative. You know how they are. Good vibes only, Marcy. Solutions, not problems, Marcy. I hated that he was right. I sat back down, the rage simmering in my gut like bad sushi. This is the problem with modern tech. It's run by people who think the cloud is actual magic and not just a server farm in Virginia consuming enough electricity to power a small country. Think you can just manifest uptime. So what am I supposed to do? I asked, staring at my screens. Just wait for the crash. They told me to tell you to stand by, Nate said, looking at his shoes. Just be available in case, I repeated. In case the golden boy trips over his own ego, I looked at the clock. The demo was in 4 hours. I pulled up the system logs. If Braden was messing with the routing, I wanted to see exactly how bad it was. I wanted a front row seat to the apocalypse. I started typing, my mechanical keyboard sounding like gunfire in the quiet office. I wasn't just going to stand by. I was going to document this murder. Because in my line of work, if it isn't in the logs, it didn't happen. And I had a feeling that by the end of the day, someone was going to try to rewrite history. I just didn't realize that someone was planning to write my obituary. I put on my noise-canceling headphones, not playing any music, just enjoying the silence, which is the rarest commodity in an open-plan office. I dove into the access logs. Usually looking at logs is as exciting as watching paint dry, but today it was like reading a crime thriller. Here's the thing about servers, they don't lie. People lie. People say I didn't touch that setting or it was working fine yesterday. But the logs are the snitches of the digital world. They see everything, they record everything, and they never forget. I filtered for administrative actions taken in the last 6 hours, and there it was. A trail of slime leading right to Braden's credentials. User, BMAC2 action, disable failover protocol timestamp. 08:42 a.m. He didn't just bypass the load balancer. He disabled the failover. For those of you who don't speak geek, imagine a skydiving instructor packing a parachute, and then, right before the jump, he cuts the cord to the reserve chute because it looks bulky in photos. That's what Braden did. He turned off the safety net. But why? Why would anyone be that stupid? Stupidity usually has a pattern. You see someone try to fix something, fail, and make it worse. This wasn't that. This was clean, surgical. He went straight to the config file and commented out the rescue lines. I felt a pit form in my stomach. This wasn't just incompetence. This felt like sabotage. But who sabotages their own demo? I messaged Nate on Slack. Nate, come look at this. Don't make a face, just look. Nate rolled over, sipping a La Croix that probably tasted like television static. I pointed at the screen. He disabled the failover, I whispered. Nate squinted. Maybe he needed the resources? The demo dataset is huge. Nate, listen to me, I said, grabbing his shoulder. If the primary node hits 100% CPU, the system won't switch to the backup. It will just die. It will freeze on stage. In front of the $100 million man. Nate's face went pale. You have to tell them. I can't tell them, I snapped. I'm negative energy, remember? Last time I tried to explain why we need redundancy, Braden told me I lacked vision. If I go in there now, say I'm trying to sabotage his big moment. So you're just going to let it burn? No, I said, narrowing my eyes. I'm going to buy insurance. I opened a terminal window. I couldn't revert his changes. His admin privileges overrode mine on the demo cluster. Another genius move by Daddy CEO. If I changed it back, he'd get an alert, and I'd be fired for insubordination before lunch. Instead, I wrote a script. A passive integrity monitor. Think of it like a dashcam for the server. It wouldn't stop the crash, but it would record exactly what caused it, who commanded it, and when it happened. I set it to mirror the logs to an encrypted external bucket, my personal oh shit drive. I typed furiously. Sudo tail f/var/log/syslog grep critical/hidden/evidence log. It wasn't much, but it was my alibi. I felt like a detective at a crime scene taking photos of the murder weapon before the killer even arrived. Around 1:00 p.m., the atmosphere in the office shifted. The air got thin. The sales team started pacing around like cocaine-addicted hamsters. The CEO, a man whose tan looked like it was applied with a spray gun, walked out of his office with Braden. Braden looked slick, too slick. He was wearing a suit that was too tight and a smile that was too wide. He looked like a shark that had just learned to walk. He caught my eye as he walked past my desk. Hey, Marcy, he said, not stopping. Keep the engine running, yeah? Might need you to restart a router or something. He winked. He actually winked. I felt the bile rise in my throat. Restart a router. To him, that's all I was. Tech support. The lady you call when the Wi-Fi is slow. He had no idea I was the only reason his digital playground hadn't melted into slag months ago. Sure thing, Braden, I said, my voice dripping with enough sarcasm to strip paint. Good luck. He didn't notice the tone. He was too busy high-fiving the sales VP. I turned back to my screens. My monitor was pulsing quietly. Recording, watching, waiting. God, I muttered to myself. I hate this place. The clock ticked closer to 2:00 p.m. The all-hands meeting, the demo, the execution, I just didn't know whose head was on the block yet. Mine or his. The all-hands area was a glass-walled fishbowl in the center of the office. They had set up rows of chairs, a massive 4K screen, and a podium that looked like it belonged on a TED talk stage. The vibe was forced excitement, like a cult meeting where everyone is smiling but secretly checking the exits. I was told to stand by, which meant I wasn't allowed in the room, but I had to be close enough to fix things if they broke. So I sat at my desk, 20 feet away, watching through the glass like a kid grounded during a birthday party. I had the system metrics up on one screen and the live internal stream of the presentation on the other. Mr. Big, the investor, sat in the front row. He looked bored. He was scrolling on his phone, probably buying an island or shorting the yen. The CEO was sweating, introducing Braden like he was the second coming of Steve Jobs. And now, the CEO boomed, his voice echoing through the glass, the architect of our future, our chief technology officer, Braden, applause, smattering, polite, terrified applause. Braden hopped onto the stage. What's up, guys? Let's talk about speed. Let's talk about the future. He started clicking through slides. The marketing fluff was dense enough to choke a horse, but I wasn't watching the slides. I was watching the CPU load on the demo cluster. It was climbing 20%, 35%, 50%, then I saw it. A flag popped up on my secondary monitor. Alert, outbound traffic rerouted. Destination, production DB main. My blood turned to ice water. He wasn't just using the sandbox. He was piping the demo queries through the live production database, the one our actual paying customers were using. He must have hard-coded the pointer at the last second to make the data look realer. You idiot, I whispered. You absolute walnut. If that demo crashed, it wouldn't just kill the presentation. It would take down the platform. Real customers would lose data. It was catastrophic malpractice. I grabbed my keyboard to kill the connection to save the production DB. My finger hovered over the enter key. Ding. A Slack message from Nate. I looked over. Nate was inside the fishbowl, standing in the back near the door. He was looking right at me through the glass. His face was gray. He typed, "Don't fix it." I typed back, "He's hitting prod. It's going to crash everything." "Nate, I know. Look at your badge access logs." I frowned. "What?" I quickly tabbed over to the security dashboard. I queried my own badge ID. User Marcy admin status, active location. Server room, nothing weird. I looked back at Nate. He shook his head slightly and mouthed something. I couldn't hear him through the glass. He pulled out his phone again. Nate, trust me, just go, clock out. Leave now, go, I thought, leave? In the middle of a crisis? Nate looked at me with an intensity I had never seen in his watery eyes. It was a plea, just go. I looked at the screen. The CPU was at 85%. Braden was ramping up to the live data stress test part of the demo. He was about to hit the button that would send a tsunami of queries into an unprotected, non-failover system linked to production. If I stayed, I would be the one trying to fix it. And if I was the one typing when it crashed, guess whose fingerprints would be on the murder weapon? Blame the mechanic, I muttered. It's the oldest trick in the book. If the car crashes, blame the person who last touched the engine. I understood. Nate knew something I didn't. I stood up. My legs felt heavy. I grabbed my bag. I didn't lock my screen. I left the monitoring script running, the terminal window glowing green with the truth. I walked to the time clock by the exit. It was an old-school biometric scanner. I pressed my thumb against it. Beep. Clocked out 2:14 p.m. The demo was scheduled to hit the stress test at 2:20 p.m. I pushed open the heavy glass doors to the lobby. The receptionist, nice girl named Tiffany who thought cloud computing meant we worked with weather data, looked up. Leaving early, Marcy? Doctor's appointment, I lied. Migraine, oh, hope you feel better, I doubt it, I said. I walked out into the Missouri heat. It was humid and oppressive, sticking to my skin immediately. I walked to my car, a 10-year-old Subaru that smelled like old receipts and dog hair. I got in, locked the doors, and sat there. My hands were shaking. I had just abandoned my post. I had just violated every instinct I had as a reliability specialist. I started the car. The radio blared a country song about trucks and beer. I turned it off. I drove out of the parking lot, checking my rearview mirror. I half expected to see the building explode behind me. It didn't. But inside, I knew the digital equivalent of a nuclear meltdown was about 5 minutes away. I drove to a diner 3 miles down the road. I ordered a black coffee and a slice of pie I didn't want. I sat in the booth, staring at my phone, waiting for the world to end. The pie was cherry. It tasted like red dye number 40 and regret. I poked at the gelatinous filling with my fork, watching the steam rise from my coffee. The diner was empty except for a trucker in the corner eating eggs like he was angry at them. It was 2:45 p.m. My phone buzzed on the table. It vibrated so hard it rattled the silverware. I looked at the screen. Unknown number, local area code. I let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again immediately. Same number. I picked it up. Hello, Marcy, it's David Sterling. The name didn't register for a second. Then it hit me. David Sterling, Mr. Big, the $100 million investor. Why the hell was he calling my personal cell? Mr. Sterling. I sat up straighter, wiping a crumb of crust off my lip. Is everything okay? He laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a dry, incredulous bark. No, Marcy, everything is distinctly not okay. I'm currently standing in your parking lot while your CEO tries to explain why his son just nuked my database access. I closed my eyes. It happened. I said, keeping my voice steady. Did the demo fail? Marcy, the screen went blue, not just blue. Flashing error codes. Then the lights flickered. Then the fire alarm went off, apparently a server rack overheated. It was theatrical, I'll give it that. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, playing dumb. Here's the thing, Marcy, Sterling continued, his voice dropping. I just watched your CTO, and I use that term loosely, scream at your CEO. He said, and I quote, Marcy refused to provision the bandwidth. She sabotaged the script. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles turned white. Little weasel. He didn't just blame the legacy code, he blamed me personally. He said what? My voice was a low growl. He said you were in the server room messing with the load balancer right when it crashed. He claimed he saw you doing it. He said you have a vendetta against him because you didn't get the promotion. I felt the blood rushing in my ears, the audacity, the sheer, unadulterated balls on this kid. Mr. Sterling, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Wasn't in the server room. I know, Sterling said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. I paused. You? No? Yeah, funny thing about due diligence, Marcy. I don't trust slide decks, I trust logs. When the system crashed, I asked to see the access audit immediately. Your CEO tried to stall, but I insisted. I pulled the badge entry logs for the server room. He paused for effect. The last person to enter the server room was the janitor at 6 o'clock a.m. And you're back. You clocked out at 2:14 p.m. 6 minutes before the crash. Unless you can telepathically crash a server from the highway, you didn't do it. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. The air in the diner suddenly felt breathable again. Thank you, Mr. Sterling, I whispered. Don't thank me yet, he said. They don't know I know. I haven't shown them the logs yet. I just walked out. I wanted to call you first. Because if they're willing to lie about this, they're hiding something worse. They are, I said. The dam broke. He disabled the failover, Mr. Sterling. He bypassed the safety protocols to make the demo faster. He routed the test traffic through the production database. He risked every client we have for a faster load time. Silence on the other end. Do you have proof? He asked. His voice was cold now, business cold. I have a passive integrity monitor running on my workstation, I said. It's mirroring every admin command to an external bucket. I have the timestamps, I have the command lines. I have his user ID executing the override. Good, Sterling said. Don't come back to the office. Go home. Secure those logs, make copies. Do not answer calls from the office. Can you do that? Yes. I'm going to let them stew for a bit, Sterling said. I want to see how deep they dig this hole. I'll call you tomorrow. Click. I stared at the phone. The trucker in the corner burped. I wasn't just an employee anymore. I was a witness, and I held the smoking gun. I took a bite of the pie. It still tasted like regret, but now it had a hint of sweet, sweet vengeance. I live in a small ranch house with a mortgage I tolerate and a cat named Pseudo who hates everyone. When I got home, I didn't turn on the lights. I went straight to my home office, a glorified closet with 3 monitors and an ergonomic chair that cost more than my couch, and fired up my personal rig. I logged into the external bucket where my integrity monitor had been dumping data. There it was. The autopsy report of a suicide mission. 14-19-55 user. BMAC2 command. Force reroute prod DB0114-20-02 system warning. Latency spike 400% 14-2015 user. BMAC2 command. Ignore warnings RF 14-2045 critical failure. Kernel panic. He had manually overridden the warnings. The system tried to save itself. It tried to scream stop hitting me, and he gagged it. It was brutal to read. It was like reading a transcript of someone driving a car into a wall while the GPS screamed turn around. My phone buzzed. It was Nate. Nate, are you safe? Me, I'm home. What's happening there? Nate, it's a bloodbath. Braden is in the CEO's office. I can hear shouting through the walls. HR is running around with clipboards. They confiscated your laptop, Marcy. I smiled grimly. Let them have the laptop. The script had already uploaded the payload. The laptop was just an empty shell. Me, did they say anything about me, Nate? Yeah, Braden is doubling down. He's saying you set a logic bomb to trigger when you left. He's saying it was revenge for the VP promotion he got. Me, that little. Nate, there's more. I heard him rehearsing this morning, in the break room. He was on the phone with someone. He said if the legacy stack can't handle it, I'll just blame the old guard and bring in AlphaStream. My blood ran cold. AlphaStream, they were a consulting firm, a digital transformation shop funded by the same VC group that Braden's frat buddies worked for. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a planned obsolescence. He wanted it to crash, maybe not this hard, but enough to justify firing the internal team, me and Nate, and outsourcing the contract to his friends. He tried to break it, but he broke it too hard. He burned the house down trying to collect the insurance money on the furniture. Me, Nate, did you tell anyone this? Nate, God, no. I have a mortgage, Marcy. I'm terrified. They're asking for witness statements. Me, don't sign anything. Say you were in the bathroom. Say you saw nothing. I'll handle this. I put the phone down. Pseudo jumped onto the desk and purred, rubbing his face against the monitor displaying the code that would end a man's career. You're right, buddy, I told the cat. It's time to go nuclear. I didn't call HR. HR works for the company. HR is there to protect the CEO from lawsuits, not to protect employees from the CEO's idiot son. If I went to HR, they would bury this. They would offer me a severance package with a non-disclosure agreement attached, and Braden would get a slap on the wrist. No, I needed a bigger gun. I opened a secure email client. I attached the logs. I attached the screenshots of the chat with Nate, redacting his name to protect the innocent coward. I drafted a subject line, evidence of intentional sabotage internal investigation. But who to send it to? Not the CEO. Not the board, they were in the CEO's pocket. Then I remembered Sterling's words. I'm going to let them stew. I found Sterling's venture capital firm's website. I found the email for their general counsel. I typed to the Office of General Counsel regarding the incident at company name. Attached are timestamps and server logs proving intentional bypass of safety protocols by C-suite executive, resulting in data loss. I am the back-end specialist being framed. I am prepared to depose. My price is anonymity until the hammer drops. I hit send. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of whiskey, cheap stuff. It burned going down, just the way I like it. I wasn't the reliability specialist anymore. I was the demolition expert, and I had just lit the fuse. The next morning, I called in sick. I put on my best I might be dying of the plague voice, but I don't think the receptionist cared. She sounded like she had been crying. Okay, Marcy, I'll put it in the system. Keep your phone on. Management might need to reach you. I'll try, I rasped, so weak. Cough, cough. I hung up and immediately spun my chair to the monitors. Overnight, the email I sent to Sterling's legal team had gotten a response. A fast one. Misredacted, we have received your documentation. Mr. Sterling has verified the authenticity of the timestamps against his own findings. We are opening a formal inquiry into fiduciary mismanagement at company name. Please preserve all data. Not communicate with company name leadership without our counsel present. We will be in touch. Fiduciary mismanagement. Now that is a sexy phrase. It means you played with the investor's money and lost. I pinged Nate, me status report. Nate, it's weird. It's really quiet. Braden isn't here. The CEO is in a closed-door meeting with 2 guys in suits I've never seen before. Lawyers, me probably. Nate, also. IT Ops is trying to image the server drives. They're looking for the logs. I laughed out loud. Of course they were. They were trying to scrub the crime scene. I logged into the backdoor admin account I kept for emergencies. Yes, it's against policy. Yes, it saved the company 3 times last year. Sue me. I watched them working in the terminal. I could see the commands they were typing. They were clumsy. They were using RM commands to try and delete specific lines from the syslog. They were trying to erase Braden's user ID from the history. It was adorable, like watching a toddler try to clean up spilled juice by smearing it around with a dirty sock. They didn't realize that Linux systems have multiple layers of logging. They were deleting the syslog, but they forgot the auth log. They forgot the bash history. And they definitely didn't know about the immutable backup snapshot I had triggered the moment I clocked out yesterday. I didn't stop them. I let them delete it because attempting to destroy evidence is a separate crime, and it makes you look way, way guiltier than just being incompetent. I took screenshots of them deleting the files. I timestamped them. I added them to a new folder titled Obstruction of Justice Zip. Around noon, my work email, which I was monitoring remotely, dinged. A meeting invite. Subject, Incident Review/Employment Discussion Host, HR Director Attendees, CEO. Braden, CTO time, 4 p.m. today location. Main conference room. They were going to fire me. They were going to bring me in, ambush me, blame the crash on my negligence or malice, and terminate me for cause to cover their asses. I forwarded the invite to Sterling's lawyers. They are summoning me. Instructions, the reply came 3 minutes later. Go, say nothing, record everything. We will be dialing in via the conference line. They won't know we are there until we speak. I felt a shiver of anticipation. It was a trap, but not for me. I took a shower. I washed the stale coffee smell out of my hair. I put on my funeral suit, a sharp black blazer and slacks I usually reserved for interviews or burying relatives. I applied waterproof mascara, just in case things got emotional, unlikely, or someone threw a drink at me possible. I looked in the mirror. I looked tired. I looked 45. But I looked like someone who knew where the bodies were buried because I was the one who dug the graves. Showtime, I said. The conference room smelled like stress and expensive cologne. The CEO sat at the head of the table, his face a mask of faux disappointment. Braden sat next to him, spinning a pen, looking like a kid who just got caught smoking but knows his dad owns the school. The HR director, a woman named Linda who always looked like she was smelling something unpleasant, sat with a thick file in front of her. Sit down, Marcy, the CEO said. He didn't offer me water. I sat. I placed my phone on the table, face down, recording. Marcy, Linda began, opening the file. We're here to discuss the catastrophic failure of the demo yesterday. Our preliminary investigation has identified several irregularities originating from your workstation. Regularities, I repeated, my voice was flat. Yes, Braden chimed in, leaning forward. Look, Marcy, we know you were upset about the reorg. We know you hate the new direction. But to plant a logic bomb, to purposely lag the connection, that's low, even for you. I looked at him. I really looked at him. He had no shame. He honestly believed he could bluff his way through this. He had deleted the logs, he thought. He had his daddy's protection. In his mind, I was just an NPC, a non-player character to be deleted so he could level up. Do you have proof of this logic bomb? I asked. We have logs, the CEO said, tapping a stack of papers. We have logs showing unauthorized code execution from your user ID at 2:19 p.m. I almost smiled. 2:19 p.m. I was 5 miles away, listening to Kenny Chesney, eating bad cherry pie. They had forged the logs, had actually typed up fake text files and printed them out. That's interesting, I said, because I wasn't here at 2:19 p.m. We have witnesses who saw you, Braden lied smoothly. Nate saw you. My heart skipped a beat. Nate has been suspended pending further investigation, Linda added quickly. But his preliminary statement supports our findings. They broke him. They probably threatened his mortgage, his family, his visa, whatever leverage they had. Forced him to sign a lie. I felt a spike of rage, hot and sharp. Poor Nate. He was weak, sure, but he didn't deserve this. So the CEO said, clasping his hands, here is the situation. We are terminating your employment for cause, gross misconduct, sabotage. We will be contesting your unemployment, and our legal team is drafting a suit for damages. The demo failure cost us potential millions. He slid a paper across the table, however, he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. If you sign this admission of guilt and a non-disclosure agreement, we will drop the lawsuit. We'll let you resign. We won't blackball you in the industry. We'll just say it was a technical mismatch. It was a classic shakedown. Sign the lie and we let you live. Fight us and we destroy you. I looked at the paper. I, Marcy last name, admit to negligent conduct. I looked up at the speakerphone in the center of the table. It was silent. The little green light was on. I won't be signing that, I said. The CEO's face hardened. Marcy, don't be stupid. You can't win this. It's your word against the executive team, is it? I asked. I reached out and tapped the speakerphone. Mr. Sterling, are you there? The room went dead silent. Braden stopped spinning his pen. The CEO looked at the phone, confused. A voice crackled through the speaker. Clear, loud, and angry. I'm here, Marcy. And I have my team with me. The The CEO turned pale. David, why are you on this line? I asked Marcy to invite me, Sterling said. I've been listening for the last 10 minutes. And I have to say, Bob, I've seen some stupid things in my life, but forging server logs to frame a whistleblower in front of your lead investor? That takes the cake. Braden stood up. Whistleblower? She's a saboteur? Sit down, son, Sterling barked. It wasn't a suggestion. We have Marcy's logs. Real ones? The ones she uploaded to a secure cloud bucket the moment you executed the override command. We also have the timestamps from the badge reader. And we have the metadata from the file deletion party your IT team threw this morning. The air left the room. It was sucked out, leaving a vacuum of pure panic. Marcy, Sterling said, you don't need to say another word. We're taking it from here. I looked at the CEO. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at his son with a look of pure horror. Not because his son did something wrong, but because his son got caught. I stood up. I think I'm done here. I didn't wait for permission. I walked out. I didn't go back to my desk to pack. There was nothing there I wanted. My plants were dead, my stapler was jammed, and the photos of my dog were already on my phone. I walked straight to the elevator. My heart was pounding, but it was a good pound. A victory rhythm. Thump, thump. They win, thump, thump, they lose. I made it to the lobby before I heard footsteps running behind me. Marcy, wait, it was the CEO, Bob. He was out of breath. He looked older than he did 10 minutes ago. His tan seemed to have grayed out. I stopped near the glass doors, but I didn't turn around completely. I gave him my profile, the I'm leaving angle. Marcy, please, he panted, catching up. There was a misunderstanding. I didn't know. Braden told me. He swore you didn't verify, I said, cutting him off. You're the CEO, Bob. Trust but verify. Isn't that what you put on the company mugs? He flinched. I can fix this. We can fix this. You don't have to leave. We need you. Obviously, we need you. I'll fire Braden. I'll fire him today. Just tell Sterling to back off. Tell him it was an internal training error. Please, he was begging. The man who tried to ruin my life 5 minutes ago was now begging me to save his funding. If Sterling pulled out, the company would collapse. The stock would be worthless. Bob's golden parachute would turn into an anvil. I looked at him. I thought about the 3 years of missed holidays. The weekends spent patching servers while Braden was at Coachella. The way they made Nate lie. Bob, I said, you forged evidence. You tried to blackmail me. That's not a training error. That's a felony. I reached into my bag and pulled out a single sheet of paper. I had typed it up at home just in case. It wasn't the admission of guilt they wanted. It was my resignation. I resign, I said, effective immediately. My consulting rate is $500 an hour with a 4-hour minimum should you need help handing over the keys to the next admin. He stared at the paper. Marcy? What have you done? I pushed the door open. The heat hit me again. But this time it felt like a warm embrace. I fixed the uptime, Bob, I said. I removed the single point of failure. I walked to my car. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could hear the structure of his world collapsing behind me, and it sounded sweeter than any symphony. The fallout was swift and violent. By the time I got home, my LinkedIn was blowing up. Turns out, when a major investor like Sterling cleans house, word gets around. The narrative wasn't Marcy crashed the server. It was Marcy stopped a Nepo baby from torching a $100M asset and brought the receipts. Sterling forced the board to convene an emergency session that night. Braden was fired. Not just fired, removed. Security escorted him out. Rumor has it he tried to steal a monitor on his way out for severance. Bob, the CEO, was placed on administrative leave, which is corporate speak for you're done. We're negotiating how much money we pay you to go away quietly. As for the company, it survived. Barely. Sterling brought in a new management team, adults this time. 2 days later, I was sitting on my porch, drinking a coffee that actually tasted good when my phone buzzed. It was Nate. Nate, they fired Braden. Bob is gone. The new interim CEO asked me to call you. They want you back. They're offering a 20% raise and the CTO title. I looked at the screen. CTO, it was the job I wanted for 5 years. It was the validation I craved, but then I remembered the glass wall. I remembered Nate looking at me, telling me to run, and then signing a paper saying I was a liar. I didn't blame him. He was a scared kid with a mortgage, but I couldn't work with him. I couldn't work in a building that had tried to eat me, tell them no thanks. Nate, what? Marcy, it's the CTO job. I took another offer, and I had. One of Sterling's portfolio companies, a cybersecurity firm in Denver, had reached out. Remote work, doubled salary, no nepotism, and my job title, Director of Reliability. I typed one last message to Nate. You're a good dev, Nate. But next time someone whispers go, don't just whisper it. Scream it, and never sign the paper. I blocked his number, not out of malice, but out of necessity. Can't rebuild a bridge that's been burned, you just have to find a new river to cross. I walked inside and looked at my home server rack. The lights were blinking green, steady, rhythmic, reliable. I opened a bottle of sriracha and squirted a little bit into my takeout noodles. It burned. It was perfect. I had drank alone to the sound of servers humming for years, but tonight the hum sounded different. It didn't sound like a cage anymore. It sounded like an engine. And I was finally the one driving. We're all healed, or at least we're all patched. And in this industry, a stable patch is as good as a cure. Funny how the loudest people in the room are often the ones holding nothing up. Marcy didn't raise her voice, didn't cause a scene, she just kept the receipts and let the truth speak. And when the walls caved in, it wasn't because she pushed them, it was because they were built on ego and shortcuts. Some folks inherit titles, others earn their power quietly. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and as always, see you in the next one.